can start. You good? Okay. Welcome, everybody. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. It is, well, it's 10 a.m. on 2 clocks and 9:59 on the other one, but we'll go ahead and get started. I will call this meeting to order. We have all three commissioners here, so we do have a full quorum. First up today is recognition and proclamation. We're going to start with our length of service awards. So starting at 5 years, county employees receive recognition in 5-year increments. So as I call your name, you can come up, and Miss Ewell County Council is going to kind of give you your certificate and your pin. If you're not here, then hopefully someone from your department can pick it up for you. Once you do receive it, if you could kind of stand over there, because we're going to take a photo. So first up is Stephen Bruce, Sheriff's Office, 25 years of service. All right, Lori Comstock, Health and Human Services, 20 years of service. Hey, Amy Lundy, also Health and Human Services, 10 years of service. Here, no. Okay, not here. Jane can take it. Holly Bogus, District Attorney's Office, 5 years of service. Okay. Christopher Hughes, Surveyor's Office, 5 years of service. Tony Campa, Community Justice, 5 years of service. Don't see you here. Okay. Keaton McEwen, Public Works, 5 years of service. Oh, my Vanna switched on me. It's now Mr. Johnson. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Carolyn Ullman, HHS, 5 years of service. Okay, you can take that one. Yeah, there we go. Larry Winkler, Transit, 5 years of service. Okay, and Carla Rastuli, Tax Office, 5 years of service. Okay. Photo. You're free to go. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you to all our employees for your great service. Nice to see everybody. All right, next up is our new employees. So these are all employees that basically started in the month of September. Oh, there you are. Come on up. Yeah.
Danny.
Good morning, commissioners.
morning.
My name is Danny Martinez. I am with HR. I will introduce the employees that were not able to be here today. So Brian Courtney, Health and Human Services Department, Environmental Health Specialist. Chantel Este, Health and Human Services Department, Winter Shelter Coordinator. And Timothy Samples, Planning and Development, Electrical Inspector. And Jared Treville, Public Works Department, Road Maintenance Worker 1. And the rest of the new employees will introduce themselves.
Okay, and after you introduce yourselves, if you can kind of go stand in the corner, go stand over on that wall, and then we'll take a photo.
Hello, my name is Mark Spratley. I work for HHS and I'm a service specialist.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Good to have you.
Yep. Excellent.
My name's Taylor Birch. I work in the assessor's office as a tax appraiser 1.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
My name is Darby. I'm a CMA. I work with HHS and the school-based health centers.
Thank you.
We're in the colors.
I am Audrey Alpider and I'm the appraiser in the assessor's office.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mary, the transit and the driver.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shelley Hungerson and I'm with Transit.
Okay. All right, is that everybody? Yep. All right, we're gonna get a
Okay.
photo.
What of time?
Thank you.
Thank
Good to
you.
see all of you.
Welcome. Awesome.
Before we move on, Jane Romero, are you staying through the meeting? Are you staying? Okay. I was hoping maybe commissioner reports that you could just give just a brief update on how our first night of sheltering went, kind of an afterthought when I saw you sitting there. So please stay if you're able. Thanks. Okay. Moving on to proclamations, we want to proclaim October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Do we have someone from my sister's place that wants to? I see you in the back. Come on up. While you're coming up, Commissioner Hall, do you want to read the proclamation?
I would be honored to. Thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy and dignity, security and humanity due to systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and or abuse. And whereas domestic and sexual violence crosses all social groups, but people who are women, transgender, men, LGBTQIA2S+, poor working class, native, of color, immigrant, non-English speaking, disabled, young, elderly, or otherwise marginalized, not only shoulder the burdens of oppression, but also experience high rates of domestic violence. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting the health and wellness of individuals and society as a whole here in this community, throughout the United States and the world. And whereas preventing interpersonal violence is not only possible, but is our collective responsibility, and prevention requires significant changes to our social norms regarding gender roles, strengths, sexuality, relationships, and the normalization of violence. And whereas a coalition of organizations has emerged to directly confront this crisis, including advocates, law enforcement officials, healthcare providers, the clergy, and other concerned individuals who are helping in the efforts to end domestic violence. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important work done by My Sister's Place, Select's Care Program, the Children's Advocacy Center, Lincoln County District Attorney's Office, and the Lincoln County Domestic Violence Council, the members of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Lincoln County. And we urge all citizens to work with these invaluable community agencies to help alleviate this problem in our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Welcome. If you want to introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, my name is Amber Wishoff Martin. I work at My Sister's Place, also known as My Safe Place. And we really appreciate you having us here today. I come alongside in spirit, Don Chapin here with the Crossroads and many others from the DV Council that weren't able to be here today. But we have a lot going on for October. We're pretty excited about, normally at these presentations, we present about the statistics of 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men. But one thing that this year I want to focus on a little bit different is even more specifically rural counties and what happens in our specific county. And what we know is that those numbers of the 1 in 4 and 1 in 7 are 20% more likely to be happening in rural communities. And homicides in rural communities are 3 times more likely to involve intimate partner violence than in larger cities. It's a pretty big discrepancy that we have facing in our own community. And so our course of action this month, it's DVAM is often known as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but we also like to throw in Domestic Violence Action Month, and we are definitely taking action this month. We started off our DVAM festivities with by being at the Newport Pride event and doing love notes to the community. We have a mosaic that we are working on that will be at several of our events that are people in the community's opportunity to write messages of healing and hope, and creating a mosaic to show our collective nature of everyone being invested in healing. And so those will continue as a community art project throughout the month. We also have on October 12th, our annual silent witness stand, and that is on 101. That is said October 12th at 12 o'clock. And so people have an opportunity to hold up signs. There'll be awareness activities there. And it's just a chance to show up and have a visual in our community of standing with survivors. The other thing that we're really excited about is two things. On October 19th, it is the National Day of Purple. So we encourage people to wear purple that day. I've provided antenna ribbons for your cars, or I put mine on my keys. It's a good chance to
What was the purple day? I was scribbling and I lost it.
October 19th. And also on that day, as far as action is concerned, we are offering a community-wide training. We're bringing in the Oregon Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, as well as the Governor's Sexual Assault Task Force, to, in the morning, give a training that will get us all as community partners on the same page, common terms, understanding the true nature of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking, which is the root of that is power and control and oppression. So we're really going to be covering those. It's a training that's going to bring all of us to that same page, the same verbiage, and from there we can move forward and talk about prevention. And then in the afternoon, the task force is going to look at, from a lens of with law enforcement and health providers and civil government, how we can take a unified approach within the efforts that we're already doing. So we're really excited about this training. On the flyers that I passed out, and it'll be on our Facebook and other media rolled out, there is a registration code. We hope to know ahead of time kind of who's coming, so we can really tailor that training to that. And while it is focused on community partners, we do invite anyone in the community who is invested and interested in learning more, to seeing who else is invested in learning more, and to come together in that network and really wrap around our community. So we're pretty excited. The other piece is that we are continuing with our Purple Lights campaign, Shine a Light on Domestic Violence. Our intention is to shine a light in all homes, businesses, all along 101 and all of the sprawling areas. So we have lights available for purchase, and all the proceeds, they're really minimal. It's $5. But any proceeds go directly to support survivors. But there also is posters that you can print off if you already have Purple Lights. We want to make this low barrier where it can, a sign that says this office, this home, or this business supports survivors. We have that in English and Spanish, so you're welcome to reach out to MSP and check out our Facebook page for that same information. Any questions or anything I can answer for anybody?
Madam Chair.
Of course.
The statistics you quoted about partner violence in rural versus urban settings, that is dramatic and it's distressing. Has there been any research? Is there any conclusion why such a huge disparity exists?
Absolutely. There are so many contributing factors, but the biggest piece is you've kind of got the trifecta of social and cultural barriers. You have barriers with the justice system, and with also just the geographic isolation that happens, not having resources. For example, you can go onto the OCADSVA, the Oregon Coalition Against Domestic Sexual Violence website, and look by county what options are available. And there are entire counties that are double the size of us and have one agency. And I know we struggle as the agencies that are here to meet all of the needs. And so whereas you could look up in Portland, you've got 7, 8 agencies that you could access services on. So, and programs and things like that. So the resources are limited. The isolation is pretty steep, transportation, finances, all those types of things. So those are some of the bigger contributing factors.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Miller, anything?
Yeah, in regard to trafficking, recently heard some statistics that things are pretty bad in Oregon compared to other states. Is that consistent with what you know?
Yes, and we are highly susceptible in our community because we are on 2 corridors or connected to 2 corridors. So we've got the I-5 and we've got 101. So anytime there is a vein that is straight through like that, it does make it challenging. And then you add to that we have tourist industries here, fishing industries.
Yeah.
We have a casino here, in our county. Those are all different types of contributing factors that make us a hotbed for human trafficking.
Gotcha. I noticed Chapel by the Sea was having some training coming up. Are you interconnected to that?
Yeah, it's actually on the, one of the days is on the 19th and one is the 20th. And that is, I think it's a fantastic idea, they're specifically training the industries like the tourist industry, so restaurants and things like that, hotels. So, definitely support their efforts, and they're bringing in a great expert to teach on that, has a good reputation.
Okay. Well, thank you. And
Thank you.
just commit. Yeah, I'm grateful for your enduring commitment to this work. So thank you.
I sit here with many, many other people who are
Yeah.
doing great things.
Nick, Miss Yule has something you want to say?
Thank you for coming today. So do you still have the silent witness cutouts?
Yes.
You do.
We
So
do.
you're welcome to, we've historically placed them in the courthouse.
Oh,
If you want to place them in the lobby area where the TVs are.
okay.
So you're welcome to do that.
Thank you. We will do that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was also going to say that, great idea, Miss Yule, that, for the shine a light on domestic violence, maybe we can have staff like Geneva others look into buying us, lights for all of our office windows, which look out as people walk in. Everyone's
Yeah.
okay with that?
That's
Yep.
Great.
We would love that.
Okay. And then the last thing I was gonna say is I really like the checklist that you got, the healthy relationship quiz that we all got a copy of. I think Commissioner Miller and I, as we were sitting here, filled it out, and
Yes, I did.
did you pass?
I did.
Okay, good. Otherwise, this was gonna turn into an intervention. So anyway, so this was really good. I think that oftentimes when you're in an abusive relationship, you don't necessarily know. Because it doesn't always start out that way. So I think this is a nice way to get perspective. So good,
Yeah.
good quiz.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I really feel strongly that you cannot just talk about what we don't want. We have
Yeah.
to talk about and educate what we do want. And
Yeah.
so all of our materials, like there's the healthy relationship to help give perspective, but we often talk about power and control. That's one of the flyers here, and this is something that all of our materials that we send out. So whenever I give a power and control wheel, I also always give the healthy relationships. You can't just tell
Mhm.
someone it supports shame, and that's not where change
Mhm.
happens. And we want to talk about what we do want and what we do want to move forward to. And I think that's a key piece, not only when working directly with survivors, but also people choosing harm. I personally choose to not call people choosing harm abusers, because that puts them in a box. There is potential for change. That's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be because colors were bought or some like little change. It takes systematic long-term change, as we know
Yeah.
from a great here. And Don Chapin has dedicated so much of his time, life's work towards that as well with Batters intervention. But we have to look holistically at the whole picture of people, and just telling them what isn't working doesn't support change. So that's what we'll have at all of our events this
Yeah.
month.
Great. Thank you
points.
so much.
Thank you.
All right, ready to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we proclaim October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Lincoln County.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Thank you.
All right, we are now moving on to the adoption of the consent calendar. These are items of a routine nature, but if either commissioners or staff want to highlight, pull, or further discuss an item, you are welcome to do that. Anybody have anything they want to pull? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I do not, so I would move that we adopt the consent calendar.
I second that motion.
I don't have anything I want to pull, but I just want to highlight something before we take a vote, which is, we do have a contract going in between Civil West Engineering and Lincoln County for the long-awaited Echo Mountain Fire Road Rehabilitation Project, which we have been waiting for quite a while to do for various reasons. So
Uh-huh.
happy that is on its way. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, First up, under decision action, donation of 140 North Yodel Lane, Otis. We did bring this up at our last meeting under discussion, and now it's under decision action. County Council Yule.
Thank you, Commissioners. Christine Ewell, County Council. So this property is a property we acquired through tax foreclosure. The goal is to deed it to Habitat, which we could do so for low-income housing under ORS 271. And then Habitat would use the wildfire community services grant for a wildfire survivor family to actually develop the property.
That's correct. Any other questions?
Nope.
No? Okay, entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we complete the donation of the residential property at 140 North Yodel Lane, Otis, to Habitat for Humanity of Lincoln County.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thanks. All right, Administrator Johnson, I'm going to, wow, shine some light on me. Thank you. I didn't even realize we were in the dark. Thanks. Yeah, you're gonna be next, but I think what I'm gonna do is have you talk about the interim rental use of commons, but then just stay up and go right into the discussion information on the development of the commons. We'll just do that back to back, and then we'll have Ms. McGuire from CSC go after you, so we're not popcorning back and forth between topics.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Commissioners, good morning. Tim Johnson, County Administrator. First item on the docket this morning is related to the interim use of the commons. We are proceeding with redevelopment of the commons, and as such, we are in a situation where it has now been vacated by all previous folks who have been having the advantage of utilizing that facility for several years. As such, this past year, as you know, we redeveloped the 4-H barn at the facility. It's beautiful, and it is available for use and rental. But to that point, we are in the process of fencing off that footprint so that people cannot meander around onto the rest of the property, which will be under construction and even more so, as you will see in my next report, over the time horizon of the next 2 to 3 years. Within the context of that, we have, as county staff, recognized that we can't give that away, this venue for purposes of the law under gift of public funds. So what we've done is come up with an equation that needs your direction and sage advice, and that is that to this point, we will work on a recovery of utility costs, power, energy, solid waste, the portable toilets that are on the property, and a corresponding security deposit that would pay for obviously cleanup of any kind that needs to be done. Within the context of this, county staff has been, at least for the last 12 months, been the accommodating force on reservations and things of that nature. Within the context of that, we've learned a couple of things. First off and foremost, your policy has been to support the 4-H and its annual Christmas tree sales. So that will take up basically a good portion of November and December. And we're not going to force the 4-H to come in and remove on a weekly basis their Christmas trees and wreaths. So that will be what is used at this particular point in time. They're also utilizing it right now on Monday afternoons for the purpose of their archery program. But until that time, it is available for lease. And then after that point, it would be available for lease. And again, no parking of any kind on the property. Again, we have to be very cautious of what we're dealing with out there because we are getting ready to do a variety of different trenchings and borings and survey work, and we just can't have people meandering around out there. for all intents and purposes for the insurance issue. So what we have here is a proposed interim recommendation on a fees and rental policy and schedule. Again, the responsibility will be that and continue to be that of the county administrator's office. And we'll accommodate that. And once you approve this, then we'll update our website and all of our materials for everyone to be able to follow this in accordance with your direction. With that, should you have any questions?
Madam
Take
Chair?
it now.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bell.
I think these last few years, there might have been a vote by the Fair Board, but I don't think we ever developed a written policy like this, which we should have, but under what I think was the actual practice, understanding that we only made the 4-H barn, and for that matter, other county facilities available for internal users, you know, such as sheriff's office doing a 4-H readiness fair, HHS doing vaccination clinics, but otherwise we've said extension and 4-H are going to be the only users considered during this interim period. If we adopt this or in its current form, does that open it up to anybody who's willing to pay the price of the ticket essentially?
It does,
Okay.
because you do have the 4-H barn available and you should be acquiring revenue from it, even if the rest of the facility is under construction. Until said time that we may have to, for a short period of time, due to construction that may impact the 4-H barn, which we'll know further in weeks and months to come as it relates to a more definable construction schedule and as it may impact water and electricity, so on and so forth. Then we can accommodate those who are interested in using the facility. But that building, for all intents and purposes, is open and should be used. And it is in a manner where you don't have to traverse the property. It has a gate, 2 gates to get into it, and we are fencing that off so that people can go to and from. Parking will have to be accommodated either across the street on Harney, on the east side of Harney on our county property, and or on the street. And so it does give us an opportunity for people to utilize at least one building that we've already renovated.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for you, Commissioner Miller?
Well, no questions really. I'm just glad that we will be able to offer it. It's a great structure, you know, and a frustrating transition, I guess, just in a matter of time it takes to develop this property. But Katie going through animal shelter, I as well, that development, Administrator Johnson has attention to detail.
Mhm.
And what I'm learning is it's absolutely essential. So, I mean, I just think this has to be done. And the outcome's going to be a wonderful asset. So it might be,
Kind of some
Might take us some time
Band-Aid
to get
ripping a
there.
little bit. Yeah. Uh-huh.
so thanks for developing this, and it was definitely needed. So looks good to me.
So do we need to adopt the new structure or the new policy and looking at Ms. Yule? It's a decision to adopt it?
It's in the books.
Okay, I haven't either, just a staff
Oh,
report.
it's in the packet,
Oh.
but yeah.
Missing that. You wanna,
Attachment
you
A.
feel like you wanna review that, Kristen? Okay. So why don't we do this? Do we have sort of a consensus to move forward?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we let Miss Yule review that and it can come back on consent? That'd be all right, Miss Yule? Okay, great.
good.
That's what we'll do. Okay, we'll come back on consent
All right.
unless there's changes you feel you need to make. Okay, all right.
Right,
Mr. Johnson, if you want to go right into jumping down under discussion information or draft development timeline for
Thank you very
comments.
much.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have this on, you can put this up on the monitor or not.
And I-
The development project timeline for this, I think would be important for the public to see. So the question before you today is related to the Commons draft construction timeline. Should the commission approve the timeline for a redevelopment of the Commons? And we're asking you to approve the proposed, and I use this phrase, draft, amplified draft timeline for redevelopment. Again, this goes coattails with the work that the commission did as it pertains to the master plan for the Commons. We have now come to a time where being impacted by COVID actually assisted us in a variety of different ways. One of them was the fact that based upon a 2016 transit room tax increase supported by the voters, it's increased the amount of available funds that have been placed in our treasury for subsequent use. And I think the reason in part we're taking a close look at what has transpired here is that it enables us to be able to go out for a revenue bond to be able to actually finance this. So it's a future value equation, which people have a hard time understanding how that works as versus a present value. But it gives us an opportunity over the time horizon of revenues collected over a 30-year, 25 or 30-year period to be able to bond against that future revenue and get it immediately and use that for the purposes of construction. As such, we follow the line set forth in the master plan. And what we have provided you today is a timeline of what that looks like. And it will approximately take 3 years. We will get into this where the fair should be having a beautiful new venue by June of 2026. I'm hoping that that's what happens. I can't tell you whether there are issues with steel and international trade issues that may impact that, domesticated surpluses of what occurs in terms of steel. We are using metal products on this moving forward because of the ability of them to withstand the salt air. Also to reduce any kind of deferred maintenance over a period of time. And may I say, the cost is substantially lower. You get a quicker product coming up and out of the ground. Certainly there are tenant improvements that will be identified in the exhibit halls, the demonstration barn, as I call Commissioner Jacobson's Katie's Red Barn. The
Really want
demonstration-
that red barn.
And they're gonna get that orchestrated and developed. And to that point, we have also used a series of corresponding examples from around the country. First and foremost, University of Southern Arkansas has developed and is completed a semi-enclosed rodeo pavilion, which we're going to be using as part of an example of what we can do here, as well as Council Ewell's alma mater, Michigan State University, is now entering into a similar activity. The cost is very prudent and can be built in relatively short order. And that'll enable us to achieve things in this timeline that we otherwise, if we had to build in other format, would not enable us to do so. So what you have here is a variety of different things. And so what has occurred is as such. As of this week, on Monday, everybody is out. Master gardeners are out, 4-H is out. We've consolidated our items as it relates to the fair board and put into storage. Search and rescue and other sheriff's related activities will be accommodated. I have informed the school district that their cross country can no longer use the fairgrounds for practice. Sorry to tell them that, but they can come back when we get it finished and we don't have holes and trenches open and so on and so forth. Gates have been locked down, no trespassing signs have been put up. We're taking this seriously because we need to move and move quickly on this. If there is a holdup on this, the first processes will be occurring now. So as you see on your agenda, we have Civil West under contract. They are beginning the process of identifying all the connectivity conditions and considerations related to infrastructure, water, sewer, storm drain, electrical power, communications, etc. And they're not only looking at what comes through the property, of which there are several easements, but also within the context of in between, what goes on in between the buildings and themselves. That is entitled an Infrastructure Conditions and Considerations Report. And I want you to know that that's very important, because unless we know where that's at, and we hit something, that won't be good. So we need to know where that's at. And then more importantly, when we look at upgrades, because most of the infrastructure out there is old and what I would call economically not functional for our future needs, we have to address that. The word I was looking for is economically obsolete for our future needs, and as well as also functionally obsolete. So within the context of this, the first couple things that you'll see is the geotech studies and the infrastructure analysis being done. You will receive the reports on those. I'll just probably put them on consent for you because they'll be pretty black and white in terms of pretty dry in the context of what's going on. However, for me, what that leads us to as we move forward is the subsequent land use planning. We have a variety of easements on right of ways that we have to resolve on this as we move forward. Recall the commission provided approval of extension of land by the school district onto county property for the purpose of the expansion of their track and field area. That has not been resolved in the context of property realignment. And there is an easement that goes across that. So to our county surveyor's point, I don't get into too much detail in this for you because it would be ad nauseum in terms of detail. But let me suggest to you that is a three-party agreement that we have to get completed between the city, the school district, and ourselves. We also have property that we own that we have provided to the county that they use for a parking lot.
To the
We
city.
too need to, what's that?
That you provide to the city.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, to the school
To the
district.
school district.
To the school district. It's on the high school property on the southeast side. So we use that as a significant parking lot during the fair. And as such, would continue to need to do that. So we have some agreements there. We also own a city street. I'm not sure how we got a hold of that. We need to address that issue associated with easement. The other thing that you may
Can I
not
ask
know,
a question there? I'm sorry. Is it a developed right of way or just a right of way on paper only?
it's a right of way on paper only,
Okay.
but that does need to be
It
resolved.
does, yeah, okay.
The city of Newport has a main water line that goes through our property. The good thing that we found out already preliminarily in the context of this property is that it does not impact any future development, or it will be wound up underneath development. So that is an important element for you to understand. But we are identifying other things. There was, and I do not know if it is an abandoned easement by the railroad. But we also have a railroad easement on there that crosses the property that has to be adjusted for and taken care of. So what I'm suggesting to all of you is that if it sounds like if there are not things that will happen immediately, there is a tremendous amount of work that needs to go on, and we need to adjust accordingly with that. Now, while we're doing that, let me just share with you, similar to what we've done with the animal shelter, we will have a multidisciplinary team in the county and other agencies from utilities working with us to move this project so that there is no chance for an issue not going unresolved. That we will have these, we will start with bi-monthly meetings and begin to procure this effort out. The second effort that may constitute elongation, and I'm not suggesting that when I say elongation, I don't think it would be more than a month or two. would be the issue associated with the financing of this. Please understand something. It has been 32 years since you've done any major construction in this county. We have retained a bond counsel that we work with, but we have also a need for what is called a municipal advisor. And a municipal advisor's changed since the name changed since the Great Recession, and according to the Dodd-Frank federal legislation, to what used to be known as a bond advisor. And these would be the people that would actually do the hands-on work of moving our request for a bond to Wall Street for investors to purchase, and then be working with the bond insurers like Fitch, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, to be able to bid on which one of those insurers we will work with when they go to the market. Everybody gets a cost somewhere along the line. And so we have to be conscious of that. There is a competition. There will be a competition for our business. And as such, we need to be conscious of what that cost is. Just so that you understand, we'll bring these people together and they'll explain that process to you, so that you have a good idea. But if there is two areas that will slow our ability to move on this, it will be all of that which needs to be done regarding land use, easements, right-of-ways, and that soft cost associated within the financing. The architect and engineering work will go pretty quickly. Again, we're using steel buildings. Most of what we can find on the steel buildings work perfectly for the redevelopment of the fairgrounds. So what I think the key question here for you in the community and our fair board is this: when may there be a period of time when we are truly unable to use the fairground? Based upon what you have here in your handout of this, if you'll turn to year 2025. Year 2025. That unfortunately covers the circumstances over if we do a June or July fair. The unfortunate set of circumstances is to build what you have identified in the master plan with either your semi-covered arena, rodeo arena, which for the purposes of this county, I think you're absolutely geniuses, because what you've done is also provide a venue that can be used year round. And in this climate, it's tremendous. Second thing is, in case of an emergency, you've built a facility that can accommodate livestock in a secure area. I think that that's a very important component of this. But you're going to have these huge steel frameworks coming in and being delivered. And at that point, you'll see that we're going to need a construction laydown area that basically takes up all the available vacant land on the property that we have, and maybe even more so, because they'll need to move that framework in with the foundations, assign them, align them accordingly. And it'll take probably a good 6 months to get those superstructures up. And then once you get that done, then it'll go quickly, because the roofing and the siding will come on relatively fast. The concrete foundations, for the most part, on all the demonstration barns, floral building, and things of that nature, will be polished. So we won't really have to worry about cleanup and things of that nature. We'll have that solved with the way that the outcome of the construction is done. The bidding process, we can do several different ways on this, but that answers, I think, the questions associated with what you have today. So if there is anything that's going on here, it's 2025 to keep your eyes on about whether we would have a fair. Now, to that point, our fair manager is here, Heather Tower. We are providing a consultant, a facilitator to work with the fair board in preparation of that period, and what they could do just in lieu of actually having a physical geographical area to work from. What could they do? And let them think outside of the box, call community together, look at other opportunities. We may be the first fair in the country that, instead of a rodeo, has a surf competition. I don't know. I mean, there's just all sorts of things that we should think about being done at this point.
Yeah, and it sounds like maybe we could bring rail back to the common.
Yeah.
Let's-
That fascinates me.
God, I don't know how the neighbors to the north and the south would appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, well,
That gives you a good idea, and I will conclude, take any questions that you may have.
yeah, thank you, Administrator Johnson. It's really nice to see that this is moving forward. I have several kind of just points about the timeline, things I see that maybe are missing, or maybe they're folded into other things and not called out. As one is the Harney Building. Not on here in the timeline that I see. I think in the master plan, it stays there.
Yes.
However, when the master plan was made was before the building got flooded, and my understanding is now it needs some significant renovations, and I just don't see it in that timeline, so it might need to be added.
So what we found on that, on the Harney Building, it isn't as bad as we thought it was. And so the good
Yeah.
thing about it is, similarly to what we did with the 4-H building, we put a new roof on it, reskinned the building, and of course, did LED lighting upgrades. Those would be some of the things that would be similar that would be done to the Harney building. And so,
So we just add it to the timeline
yeah.
somewhere. The other things in the timeline is, again, that I didn't see, and they could just be worked into other things, is development of the green space. Also like landscaping of all this new space, outdoor fencing, and I think we have a parking lot in there as well. So I'm not sure if that,
So a couple things associated with that. Landscaping and lighting are on page 5 and on under 2026. So you have
Missed
the
'em.
landscaping and lighting.
Oh, I see
underneath
'em.
that.
Okay, yep, I
Yeah,
missed
and
it.
So that comes at the very
Okay,
end of
yep.
this, because I don't want construction equipment. to
I
be
hate it.
Landscaping
Yep,
on that.
okay, thank you. I just
So,
missed that.
yeah, there's a couple different sites,
Okay.
as it pertains to, open area. Within the property itself, so, trying to, ensure that that gets done, but that comes at the very end.
All right, and then the other thing that may not really be appropriate to fit in here, this is more construction, but at some point in this timeline, not right away, obviously, but we obviously need to review and adopt our new rates and policies for all of the new buildings. So that
Mhm.
needs to be in here from an administrative tax, as well as, I believe, in the master plan. We had a plan to hire some type of commons manager or event manager that then would be responsible for not just, passively booking things, but actually going out and kind of do, yeah, for
Facility.
marketing and making sure those things are done. So it's somewhere in here, and I would just say that to me, that wouldn't necessarily come at the very end, because you would want someone
right.
booking those facilities, planning that they're gonna be done in whatever September that you would start.
Yeah.
So
That's,
Booking.
that's
Yeah.
gonna be an interesting,
Yeah,
timeline when we look ahead and hope everything.
goes okay.
So I
Yeah.
just,
Falls into place.
you have, I don't mean to be narcissistic, you do have a experienced construction project manager. And I always cite this example when the Super Bowl comes around, because as you know, I was in the city manager's office and led the development in San Diego of not one, but 2 Super Bowls. In the Super Bowl in 1997, we were required in San Diego to do $84 million in upgrades. We did those, performed those, and recall the story I told you all that the chief of policy for the city council came in my office and said, "We have a problem." And I said, "What's the problem?" And we were 3 weeks out to the Super Bowl, and all of the scaffolding and cranes came down, and he said, "We forgot to paint the stadium." 3 weeks before it, and in the contract that looked like 10 times the size of War and Peace, that had 32 different stakeholder organizations engaged in the development of that contract, we overlooked the painting of what was then known as Jack Murphy Stadium, now known as Qualcomm, no longer in existence today, unfortunately, after all of this work. It became a real community coordination to get that done and completed, including, working on union contracts and allowing people to volunteer their time to help paint the stadium. It was an interesting period. So I always like to tell you that we try to dot all of our i's and cross all of our t's. And so I appreciate that comment because we don't want that to fall through the cracks. And as such, I would recommend at least 6 months to the point of front end on this thing. To be able to do that. I think one of the other things that I would ask for your sage advice and direction on is until you actually see the facility and what the facilities and what they look like. I think we should reserve what our cost would be on those, because I think you will see something different than what maybe those engaged in the construction of these will see, and you will look at a different market value. And that market value really needs to reflect what you want to get off of it.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Johnson on this?
Well, I think this is very comprehensive. It's, yeah, there's got a lot to do. I may be joining Administrator Johnson at the fair, Oregon Fair convention, and I noticed the keynote is inspect what you expect. So very interested, the use of this is not limited, obviously, to just the fair, but I think it's going to be a great asset for the community. So it's exciting.
So 2026, that's our
2026.
timeline. It's not that far off when you think about it.
Commissioner Hall, anything else?
No, so I assume we'll be asked to approve a slightly cleaned up version of this as a decision action item at a future meeting.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's just gonna come.
It's
in-
informational only.
Informational only. It will come in pieces as
All right.
contracts start
Okay.
rolling down the pike. And then to Mr. Johnson's point of establishing fees, you would do that through your fee schedule.
Mhm.
So
So there's a timing.
Okay.
there. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ms. Yule. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
All right, next up under discussion information, Tri-County Continuum of Care presented by Peggy McGuire, Executive Director of Community Services Consortium.
Morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi.
Morning, folks. Thanks for
Hi.
making time for me on your agenda. And I have to say that I feel excited because this is the first time I'm presenting this where what I'm presenting sounds pretty easy as compared to what came before me. And Administrator Johnson, Commissioner Hall, probably Director Romero could probably do this. They've heard it so many times now. So Peggy McGuire, I'm the Executive Director of Community Services Consortium, your community action agency. And I'm mainly here today because I want to introduce this topic to you, which again, I'm aware that Commissioner Hall's talked with you about this a bit. So it's not completely cold to you, but also to let you know that then I'll come back at a later date and ask for a formal resolution of your support if you choose to support. And hopefully, okay, there we got it. So why I'm here today, you probably know a lot about continuums of care at this point in time. We are part of the rural Oregon continuum of care, which is a 26 county continuum. HUD requires us to be part of a continuum of care in order to apply for funding in any of the HUD NOFAs related to housing, homelessness, and many other things related to the purview areas that HUD. And so who makes up the continuum of cares? This is kind of the laundry list of folks and organizations that you want represented there, which we'll talk more about in just a couple of minutes. Who provides the administration of a continuum of care? It can really be anything that the continuum itself wants to use to structure it and to administer it. I'm proposing in this iteration that CSC will do most of the work. We're already providing most of the work for the activities that are happening in this arena. And then as the continuum moves forward and forms itself, there can be more determination of exactly what we want that to look like. But at the moment, we can do that. And I'm also proposing that we have a tri-county continuum. We could name a single county, we could name multiple counties, we could name regions. But I really feel like Lynn, Benton, Lincoln are together in many things. Our CCO, our COG, our community action agency makes sense to go forward as a tri-county region. The reason I put this little matrix in here, well, it's not a matrix, a diagram of what these different evaluation pieces are is so that you can see how we are rated and ranked as a continuum. And I'll just tell you right now, the rural Oregon continuum of care is performing very poorly on these measurements. And that is in itself a huge piece of this problem and why moving to a tri-county continuum will help us. As we compete nationally for contracts from HUD in their NOFA process, our continuums rating on these measurements determines some of our scoring. And in this competition, where we're competing against places like San Diego, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, 1 point, a half a point make a giant difference for us. And we continuously fall very far down that list because of these measurements across that 26 county continuum. I also wanted to put a map of the continuum in place because it's become my belief that people in Washington, DC don't know what Oregon actually looks like. They keep telling me that balance of state continuums can be highly successful. And whenever I ask, okay, give me an example of one that you consider highly successful, they tell me Connecticut. And I'm like, do you understand what Oregon looks like? I said, my agency alone serves an area that's roughly the size of the state of Connecticut. And we're talking about many more counties. So in this map, the blue counties are the rural Oregon continuum of care. The gray counties are the counties that are distinct continuums already on their own. And part of what got me really angry about this whole process was when the governor executed her executive orders 2302, which gave to the gray counties direct allocations of funding to assist with the problem of ending homelessness, and then said, oh yeah, and we recognize that in 2303, all of the rest of those counties have struggles too, but well, we'll get around to figuring that out. And you all know Lincoln County asked to be included as an opt-in county in the direct allocations, got denied. And then the governor put out some guidance and some encouragement to the legislature who passed House Bill 5019 and said, yeah, all the rest of you split $26 million and figure it out. When I looked at the allocations, Jackson County alone got a direct allocation of more than $8 million. Our tri-county region is splitting around 3.5 million. And then we had to compete for some other shelter funds, as you well know. So that just didn't seem right to me. And it also signaled, by the way, and the governor has validated this, that her intent is to put a lot of money out through the continuum of care system in the future. And so I feel like we need to be positioned to be ready to have a more direct allocation of that and to be more actively engaged in that process and in the legislative advocacy around that. So how is this connected to everything else we have going on in Lincoln County? Again, you all probably have better awareness of this than many of the city councils that I've been meeting with. We have a lot of folks at the table working on this effort, but it is complex and difficult for folks to understand. So House Bill 4123 provided funding to Lincoln County to establish a navigation center and create a strategy to address homelessness across our county. House Bill 5019 essentially gave us the money to do a pilot program. They said, we're going to tell you how many emergency housing beds you need to create, and we're going to tell you how many individuals or households, it's still a little bit unclear at this moment, you need to rapidly rehouse. So we have our assignments. We now have our funding award notification. We don't have the dollars, by the way, under House Bill 5019 just yet, but we're getting there. But we have all the players at the table that we need. And those are the folks that I'm hoping will be the local planning group that moves forward under the continuum of care concept to continue working with that continuum of care leadership across the Tri-County region and really move that process forward in perpetuity. How this connects with what's happening in the other counties, Benton County also got House Bill 4123 funding. For their county, they've been marching in lockstep with you pretty much in your process on that. They also, as well as Lynn County, have House Bill $5019. They've established local planning groups in both of those two counties. And again, I'm hoping that all of those folks who are absolutely the right people to be at the table will move forward and be the continuum of care representation. You may have seen this previously, and if not, you will see it soon. The Lincoln County Homeless Advisory Board contractor from Morant McLeod created this map of all the different entities in Lincoln County that touch folks who are working, who are experiencing being unhoused. And it can be in any way. It could be the library where people go to stay out of the inclement weather. It can, or access computer services like email. It can be the police department where they're using their systems, their intercept model that finds people in different places, provides them resources, connects them up, and prevents them from being part of the criminal justice system, or ends up with people in the criminal justice system and then helps get them resources. I just thought that this was fascinating, and I'm going to work with Morant McLeod in the future to do this across all three counties, because this really showed us how many people are working on this issue in the community, where those particular organizations are. Many of them are faith-based organizations, and who they're working together with. So the larger organizations like the big green blobs that you see in there, our Community Services Consortium, or Samaritan House, or My Sister's Place, some of the community organizations that have solid funding and are doing direct services to clients. And people are bringing folks to us and giving them information and services. And this is important because what is not happening now that our local continuum will do is make sure that we're gathering the data. And once we have that data, that takes us a long way toward being able to analyze what the actual needs are and what the number of people that we're seeing it truly is, because we're kind of estimating in the dark at this moment in time. We have some educated guesses, but that we think are right, somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 people, but having a much better data system and having everybody participating in that will help. This is just a little diagram that shows the kind of the real nature of all the work that's being done by the entities that are working with folks who are unhoused. Everything from street outreach to collecting and reporting the data, providing a spectrum of housing and housing options. So prior to a couple of years ago, nobody had ever withdrawn from a balance of state continuum, and HUD didn't know how to do that. And Marion and Polk County said, hey, we're tired of this, we want out. And they worked with HUD. HUD appointed a technical assistance provider to Marion and Polk counties, as well as to the HUD Portland field office, to figure out how this works. Marion and Polk County's Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance is what their continuum of care is now called, have been very generous with their time and their resources in providing us a roadmap of how to do this. And these are the first things that we're going to need to do. We've already had a Tri-County stakeholder forum that happened in Corvallis on July 20th. Commissioner Hall was a participant there, where the stakeholders unanimously voted to pull out of the Tri-County continuum. Now what I'm going to need is resolutions from all the participating communities. And I've been on the road to all the Lincoln County city councils, and I have Benton County and Lynn County city councils on my agenda for the next month. And then come back to those folks, get their resolutions, put that in a packet, get letters from all the partners you saw on that heat map that I showed you previously. And then at each of those local planning groups at each county, have them vote that that's their intent to want to pull back. And then provide a little packet with a lot more information to HUD and say, hey, this isn't just me with this wild and crazy idea. There is support from my community that wants to be represented by their own tri-county continuum. And then hopefully they will march us forward. And by this time next year, we will be competing on our own outside of the Rock in the HUD NOFA. And so happy to answer any questions, and also wanted you to have my contact information in case you want to talk about this offline, where I'm happy to completely geek out on this topic with you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you for the presentation, Peggy. I've assumed through this process that, you know, right now we're part of this 26 county continuum with 2 staff people, that if we are to meet what I think are the collective expectations that are developing around a tri-county continuum, when and where are we going to be able to give guidance to other county commissions and cities? I mean, will they be expected, okay, at least say for the first year or two, here's the financial nut, here's the dollar figure. You need to be prepared to commit to getting this up and going.
Great question, Commissioner Hall. I feel like at this time that this is the right time to make this move, because we do have some funds that are somewhat flexible with the House Bill 4123 funds and the House Bill 5019 funds. CSC has some direct allocations of funding that we have always used to help coordinate point in time count, to help manage the homeless management information system, to coordinate the coordinated entry process. And we'll continue to do that with those funds. And then what we will probably have to do is beef up some staffing to help really put the structure in place and to enhance the homeless management information piece. But that's already going to be required under those other House Bill 4123 and 5019 awards, because all the participants are going to have to be utilizing those systems. So we're going to have to do a lot more direct training for people. So that's kind of in the process. What Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance did is they voted themselves with all the participants to say, if you want to be a voting member entity, then you need to pony up some dollars. And it ranges everything from tens of thousands to $500. If you don't want to be a voting member, you're still welcome at the table. Your opinion, your input is still very valued. But when it comes right down to it, you won't get to vote if you're not putting in dollars. And I will also be advocating along with my colleagues at the state level for the governor, especially if she's thinking that she's going to be passing money through this system in the future, that there has to be money across the board for continuums of care to sustain themselves. Because as you point out rightfully, there is totally an administrative element of it that needs to be done. And you can't do it without that. Benton County has paid staff that both Corvallis and Benton County are supporting that can do some of the work. And the other 2 counties don't have that in place at this moment. So it remains to be seen. There will be some calculations and more conversation about this as the process itself moves forward. But I don't have any kind of guesstimates at this time what that would look like or how it'll get divided.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, Commissioner Miller?
Well, I just appreciate the work. Commissioner Hall as well, you know, attending the meeting the other day. Your team is just really on top of it. So pulled together. So for this process, kind of maybe an optimism number on a scale of 1 to 10. I mean, are you feeling pretty good? I mean, where do we land, you think?
I'm actually feeling really good. So far, all of the city councils I've talked to are excited. The enthusiasm with the people at the stakeholder meeting was palpable. And what I've been having my eye on for the last couple of years is what's been happening with Marion and Polk counties, because I was fearful that they would lose money in the national competitions, and they've slowly inched their way up and they're gaining money. So one of the places that we compare to as we compare to Lane County that has always had their own continuum, literally for decades. And they have amassed this giant war chest of funding that keeps getting refunded. And then they keep adding funding to that. And so everybody says, well, why can't we be there? Well, because they've been doing this for a really long time. And so I have very high hopes from watching what's happening with Marion and Polk counties that we will very much see a similar kind of slow growth over
Gotcha.
time.
Doing a lot of things right, so
Yep.
we've got a model there. so-
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Is there a certain time you want to come back for a vote? Do you want to do that at our next meeting next week or?
I can do it anytime you like. I have a draft
Okay,
as a sample for the resolution that I can share with you.
Perfect.
And whenever is convenient for you, I can get that on the agenda.
okay, our schedule this month with meetings is a little weird for various reasons. So we have another meeting next Wednesday, which is the 11th, and then our next meeting isn't until November. So
So I'm probably coming back to most of the other Lincoln County cities during October and November. So I
Okay.
can fit it in anywhere.
first week in November work for you?
Sounds
Okay, let's do
awesome.
that then.
Very
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you,
thank
Peggy.
you.
Thank you. everyone.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Moving into reports, thank you for sticking around. Director Romero, I was hoping Jane could come up and just give us a really brief little report on just how our first night of winter sheltering in Newport went last night.
Very good. For the record, Jane Romero, Health and Human Services Director, and I can say we are off to the races. Last night was our first evening. The first facility was St. Stephen's. The new shelter director, Chantal Estes, sent me an email to let me know that overall 16 people showed up, 16, although only 9 and 2 pets stayed. Some folks were not really willing to kennel their pups. Some people wanted just food, and in a way it was kind of good because we realized the space is really not going to be the size that we need as we move into winter. So even as we speak, we are starting to look for an additional space here in Newport. We have employed, I think, 5 part-time staff. 3 were on site, so the program is well supervised. Chantel reported that everybody was relaxed, and I'm very grateful for the shelter and the food. And I think at this point, I think you all know about the wonderful funding support that we've received and the just the tremendous support that we've received from our sister county departments, but also other community partners. And we are beginning to turn our attention to standing up the Lincoln City shelter.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Is there a target date for opening Lincoln City?
November 1st.
Volunteerism.
That's
Getting
on
some-
our original primary goal, I should say, was getting the doors open. So we have a couple of next things that are kind of rising to the top of the to-do list. Volunteer recruitment is among them. All of our volunteers have to undergo background checks. So that's kind of a heavy lift for human resources, not you, Commissioner.
Yeah. And
Not our.
I was gonna say, I fill it out and I had to put down references. I put down Sheriff Landers as a reference, so.
Oh,
hopefully
yeah, I'm
you
gonna
guys-
use them too then. I'm gonna use all 3 of you. But yeah, we have to do the background check, but we also need to work out relationships with hotels for hotel vouchers for our families.
I've done some backgrounds that are rather fast. Any idea how long that takes? Like, what's the buffer on average?
You know, I don't know. Director Collier tells me it depends on interesting variables like,
Okay.
you know, how many places a person has lived. I've had background checks come back on employees in, you know, a day or 2, and then I've had others go for weeks.
So if folks are intending on doing that, getting started would be great.
But I do not think our staff are required to have background checks because they're, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the message is if you're a member of the public that wants to maybe start that rather than later, start that now.
And let me just add, if you go to the county website, you can eventually find your way to a link to register to volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
Great.
it's on the homepage right now. So,
All right,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Really appreciate that impromptu report. I don't have anything else to report. Commissioner Hall, anything from you?
Not now.
Okay, Commissioner Miller, anything from you?
Not at the moment.
Okay, we are going to move on to public comment. First, we'll look at public comment that was received via our Smart Sheets form. I think we had one in there related to spray, if I do recall.
Yeah, we do. I think Geneva's gonna pull up the agenda. And just a reminder, and Commissioner Jacobson,
That's
you
the one I
you
saw.
pointed it out, so you can find that in that top left tab there. So there it
Okay,
is, yes.
all right, that's the one that I had seen. All right. Do we have any online real-time public comment? So anybody? Okay, I think we're gonna start with public comment online, Geneva. So if we have anyone online that wants to give public comment, you can raise your virtual hand. I see someone. Okay, all right.
Diane, yes.
Okay, we have unmuted you. Can you hear us, Tyann?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you're a little quiet, so hang on just a minute. We're gonna see if we can up the volume here. All right, say something again and we'll see if we can hear you better.
Hello.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Hang on. Maybe that's that. Okay, try again.
Hello.
Okay, I knew that was gonna happen.
Okay.
All right.
Are my 3 minutes up now?
No, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, now we can hear you and you can go ahead and start. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
I just wanted to inform the county commissioners that unfortunately, the spraying of Beaver Creek is happening, probably starting today. I'm looking out my window right now and it's a beautiful sky and it's not raining. The workers last week kind of confirmed that it was going to happen this week. We are really upset about the whole situation because after all, the watershed is right down the hill from where the spray is happening, regardless if it's backpack or aerial spray. It's just not good for our environment. Appreciate your interest and continued interest. I have learned this week that as a matter of practice, this spray is going to take place 2 times a year for the next 4 years on the exact same piece of land. That's more than likely. Of course, I'm not the landowner, so who knows what's going to happen, but it doesn't look good for our future. I want you to know that this is a beginning of this process for us to try to do something to protect our water. I also want you to know that there's a workshop going on.
Is that, hang on, just close.
Sorry, that's the emergency thing.
Get his boss, okay.
Sorry, I
Yeah, hold
taking
on,
my 3
Diane.
minutes,
Yeah.
dang it.
Yes, she's still got time. If she wants.
All right, you still have time. Sorry, that was not us doing anything. That was an emergency where you can keep
Yeah.
going if you have time.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to let you know that there's a workshop that's going on today at the community college on water. I hope to learn more about it. I encourage you all to participate in stopthespray.com and continue to support us and continue to follow this journey because clean water is most important to all of us. Thank you again for all your support and all the work you're doing. I'm excited about the fair on a side note.
Hey, and thank you for probably being our most patient public comment person I think we've ever had through an emergency alert and speaker issue. So much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, you guys.
All right. Do we have anyone else online? Raise your virtual hand. Doesn't look like it. Okay, and then now we'll move to our in-person public comment. So Geneva can call up who signed up first. Okay. Welcome. You can come pass them out and then we can start your public comment after you've passed them out.
Yeah, just check it. Sometimes it goes into mute mode.
There you go.
Maybe tap it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Probably give it.
Raymond,
Give it to our.
we have one more.
Thank you.
And
All
Raymond,
right.
pull that mic up pretty close when you sit down for us so we can be sure to hear you.
Okay, if you could introduce yourself for the record and then Commissioner Hall will start your 3-minute timer.
My name is Raymond Greenman. I live at 4088 Salmon River Highway in Otis, Oregon. Approximately 20 months ago, Joseph Storm bought the property on the other side of the dirt road east of my property. This lot has a small creek running through it that flows under Highway 18 and into the Salmon River. Between the creek and the side of the lot, they cannot develop it. He put a travel trailer on the property and moved his mother, Sasha, into it. First, it started out with the loud music. She has a giant outdoor speaker. The neighborhood made over 100 complaints per one sheriff deputy told me. Some were even a half mile away. The gentleman that did my sheetrock went back up the door down. And when he was sheetrocking my house and she turned on the speaker, he's like, "Oh, we were wondering where that noise has been coming from." Then there are the dogs. They run free and are constantly pooping in my yard. One male even comes into my carport and pees on my picnic table and bag of cans. I have provided a picture of the dogs peeing on my blueberry bushes, which is really hard to see. So we were unable to do any blueberries this year because of this. When I went and purchased game cameras to document the things they do, when I called animal control and told them about the cameras, they told me that they needed to witness the dogs performing the act. Now, if the images taken to the judge would not be good enough. As I stated in the beginning, this has been going on for over 20 months. That means that the second summer, our children have now brought the grandchildren over and camped out in the yard. Camping has always been our yearly gatherings. Now it is just not the dog food that keeps the children and grandchildren from coming. It is she herself. She also poops in the middle of the road and walks around with no clothing on, pictures and clothes. My wife is 60 years old and on oxygen, 24/7 for pulmonary fibrosis, and is still working. I am 55. I have congestive heart failure. I've had 3 heart attacks and a stroke. Now, due to my low blood pressure, I'm not working. I was working 3 days a week up until 4 months ago. We built a new house last year despite everything, hoping we'd be able to live out our final days enjoying ourselves with family and friends. The land we built a new home on was already ours free and clear. And we actually paid it up to it. We were living in a 104-year-old house. Due to the house's condition, we had to do something. We did consider buying a travel trailer and living in that, so we wouldn't have to go into debt for a new house. After giving it a lot of thought, we chose to build the house, knowing that worst case scenario, we could sell the place and live off the money. Well, exactly what is it worth then? Who would buy it? And you pull up and you're sworn by dogs. Especially too, who would buy it with a naked lady running around pooping everywhere. I did talk to Summer Williams, one of our registered appraisers, about maybe getting some relief on my taxes due to the value of my home. She told me, sorry, it doesn't work that way, but be prepared. My taxes will double. I will be paying twice as much property taxes this year than I paid last year. On property I'm not even using. My neighbor Julia has given Deputy Written addresses for Joseph, which she located online. When questioned about this, Deputy Written says It is a different county, so he has no jurisdiction. I asked, why not contact that county sheriff department and work with them to get Joseph cited? He did not give me an answer. I do not know what needs to be done. But Sasha has now moved a 30-foot motorhome onto the property, and she's told me straight up, it's so residential and she's not going anywhere. So I asked you, is this how it really works? I mean, should I just buy a travel trailer, put my property in a stepchild's name in Redmond, Oregon, told him to ignore the letters when Deputy Wooten sent them? Why did I do the right thing if I am to receive no benefit? Do I have to live out my days miserable thanks to the system and the way it works?
And if you
I'd
could
really
finish,
like
if you
some
could
answers.
finish
So-
up, you are
but
at
so
time.
far, no one seems to be able to tell me anything.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have anyone else signed up for public, in-person public comment?
Deborah. Vance. Vance.
All right, and before you start, oh, okay, good, we're good on our time. Okay. Claire. Sorry, yeah, okay.
There's a song called It's Not Hard to Put Up with Somebody Else's Troubles. It's kind of an interesting point of view. If it's not in my backyard, it's not a problem. My name is Deborah Fant. I live at 76 East Rainbow Road, Wallport, Oregon. As you might guess, I'm here in my capacity of a concerned citizen about the issues of the forest practices. These days of waking up and seeing a clear day is a difficult thing to take in because you know what's going to happen today. And I guess one question that has been rattling through my head, or there have been a lot of questions that have rattled through my head lately about why, what is this about? Who is the state? Who is it who has made this process legal? And there is no one person, obviously. It is a composite of agencies, of individual persons who may or may not agree with it. It's like looking for a target and there isn't one. And I realize that you guys get to be a target at times when we are upset and disaffected over things. But I would put out there that there are historic precedences to bad laws. And probably you guys know some of those that I don't even know. But I would point out that there were laws that considered Black people to be 3/5 of a human being. Is that a bad law? Yes. There are laws that stopped Native people from doing their spiritual practice and cultural activities because it was inconvenient for the colonizers. I mean, that's a bad law. My belief is that we have come a long way in this country since the post-World War I days, when toxic chemicals were created and used to harm people and the land. We invited them here to make them for us because we figured we could use them, and we have used them. I mean, in the Vietnam era, there was a congressional group who met and declared that Agent Orange was too awful to use in war. I mean, that's a pretty clear message. The next thing that happened is that Michael Newton said, we'll take some of those supplies off your hands and we'll try them on our forests. He didn't only get the forest, he got the people, he got the wildlife, he got the water. And you know that there were babies born without brains. We were a hot spot on the NIH list. I mean, those things are incontrovertible. There is so much research that has been done even recently about glyphosate and all of the additions that go into it that don't get named on the label that increase the level of toxicity.
And I'm so tired of the charade about this is safe and you don't have to worry about it. I wish you could view what's going on out in the valley where the people of Beaver Creek are living. They have so much class. And some people would call them activists or radicals because they're trying to protect themselves. I mean, that's a point of view that I find completely absurd. I mean, what would you do? What would I do if it was my home? I probably would break some laws. But I just want to raise the consciousness. I want to raise the level of awareness about it's time for this culture to deal with how do we take down some really bad laws? And it's going to take all of us to do it, because if it's just a few disgruntled people, so to speak, that isn't going to be enough to do it. I mean, we're up against power and money. And you all are not naive to that. You know what that means.
You were at time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a lot to say, but thanks for listening.
Yeah, you can always submit written public comment as well.
Right.
There's not a time limit on that.
I'll also give you warning that we were probably going to come to you at some point with a request to work with us on some specific things.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right. Room cleared out except for Anno in the back. Public comment from you? No, okay. All right, we are going to adjourn our next meeting is Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, both in this room and hybrid.